Welcome to the Business Men and Women of Color podcast. I am your host, Ann Alston, and it is my pleasure again to bring quality programs to all of you. I am excited again with another returning podcast participant, Dr. Guyton, who's going to be here again to talk about things that have happened and maybe some new information that has occurred since the last time she was on her podcast. So if you haven't got a chance, please scroll down to the 2016 podcast participants and click on Dr. Guyton's name and listen to her podcast because it's definitely on fire. I really loved her interview. And she also had a cameo in our video that we had last year about just investing in yourself. So make sure you check that out. So again, this is a really popular platform. We have over 75 participants that's on this platform this year. In 2018, this is definitely the platform to be on. Just in case you didn't know what the purpose of this podcast, that we share industry information and encourage you, the working professional, to think about entering their line of work or just be aware of the different trends of professions that's happening today and being created. So there is tons and tons of information. So take a moment, sit down, grab a pen and piece of paper, check out all of the podcasts, listen to all of them, really get that information, and then connect with people who is in this community. One of the things we're going to do before we get started is we're going to thank our corporate business partners and corporate sponsors, which are Cat Serrano LLC, Cheryl Wood Empowers, Concern and Learning, Evangelism Radio, Genesis Preferred Solutions, J Coach International, Nels Tax Help, My Financial Home, Power, STCI, and the student teacher, along with our business affiliate sponsors and all of the participants who's helping to make this event a success. So again, I want to just go ahead and give a brief introduction of Dr. Guyton. And again, she has her podcast from 2016 that you can check out, but she is going to be here talking about some really, really good information. So stay tuned for that. Dr. Guyton is a nurse and clinical leader with over 18 years of healthcare experience. She joined SPOC from Trinity Health Mercy Health System, where she was the Chief Clinical Informatics Officer. And in that role, she directed information technology integrations. She oversaw clinical overflow redesigns and served in multiple roles throughout the system. She served in multiple roles throughout I don't know why I can't get that. Before becoming the CCIO, she was also Chief Nurse Officer at Mercy Suburban Hospital, Senior Director of Nursing Operations at St. Francis Hospital in Delaware, and Nurse Manager of Cardiac Transplant and Telemetry at Temple University Hospital. And I'm telling you, it just goes on and on. I think she's utterly amazing. She's laughing right now because she knows it's so many titles. I swear for goodness. But anyway, welcome, Dr. Guyton. I am so happy that you are back again this year. See, you got me tongue-tied now.
Oh, my goodness. And I'm so sorry. But thank you so much for having me back. You know, it has been tremendous just watching your platform grow. You know, last year when we were talking about the podcast. You know, now there's conferences and face-to-face meetings. So actually, I'm honored to even be a part of this circle. And, you know, just to add to it. And also what I've learned from the other guests have helped me tremendously throughout the year. So as soon as you put that information out there to join you this year, I was like, oh, yes, let me sign up first.
Well, I am so glad. I am so happy because that's really what the podcast platform is about to, spark that collaboration. I know that last year at your event you had a couple people from the podcast come all the way out to Philadelphia to be part of that. Talk about that a little bit.
Oh, my goodness. So last year I had my first face-to-face conference. And it was called Are You Stuck? And it was basically a conference really related to my book. And in my book, I talk about, it's called Transformational Innovation, 10 Practical Steps to Help You Change Your Life. And throughout my book tour last year, I heard people, they kept saying to me, I'm just stuck in this place. I'm just stuck in this situation. And so I took those principles and led the audience through an exercise to help them understand, one, where they may be stuck at, two, how to get themselves out of it, and three, how to build the network. And as a result of that conference, we also built the network of the attendees and the vendors who were there. So it was a very rich environment. we were able to kind of stay together and form relationships. And actually, some of my vendors that were there, and even the chef that was there that provided the food, she wound up booking for events at the conference. So it was really a time where we can network, we can share, and we can pull each other out of what we thought, we were kind of stuck in. So it was a tremendous time. And yes, Leroy McKenzie, who is the author, my publisher as well, he came all the way down from the Maryland area. I know he has spoken and worked with you on many, many ventures, but he came and he talked about being an author and how to work with a publisher, and actually, again, was able to work with people to help them start to write their new book or their first book. So it was great. And I just want to preface that with saying, last year was kind of tough for me. I lost my father in April, and through that experience in April, I kind of burst that conference, because I felt even in that grieving process that sometimes you can get stuck even in grief, right? And so, yes, it's a natural process we need to go through, but I saw myself and some of my family members getting stuck in there. And so I dedicated that conference, which occurred in June, right, 2 months after I buried him, to that date. And I really dedicated that conference to him, and he loved yellow and yellow flowers. And so everything was yellow, and it was kind of my celebration for him. And allowing our families to move past that and celebrate his life. Because I realized through the funeral services, people intend to celebrate their lives, but they really don't because they're still mourning. And so that conference was a great experience, not only for my family, but also, people who follow me, people who've read my book, and people who attended the conference. So happy about
Wow. Well, first of all, congratulations on your conference. And at the same token, I'm sorry to hear about the loss of your loved one. I just think that all in all, you just really just described the epitome of what a real true collaboration is, because you pretty much said that. I know Leroy is everywhere. Leroy
it.
is the king of collaborations. I'm the
Yes.
queen of collaboration. But just the fact that you said that he reached out to you and helped you with your book and was also helping you to publish it, and then even drove all the way out to Philadelphia just to talk to your audience about how to publish a book. And
Right.
that's really what this platform is all about. I'm so happy that that happened. And, and then that also brought in your awareness and his awareness on both sides, because now he has a presence in Philadelphia and you have a presence here in DC and Baltimore. But I just think it's fabulous. And then as far as people getting stuck, I think a lot of us are stuck in so many different ways. We
Mhm.
just don't come out and seek the help. And I'm glad that you were able to, tap into those people that were having those stuck moments and was able to give them something that would help them along the way. And I'm gonna tell you, I'm an advocate for tools. Any book that has like some worksheets in them or something like that, I just love those type of things, because it's definitely something that people need. And so that kind of leads into talking about your other book and getting into the principles, and maybe talking about some other activities that you've been involved in since you was on the podcast last year.
Yeah, thank you. And you know what? Last year I talked a lot about my entrepreneurial side. And it's funny where I gave you the bio this year, which is more around my training and my background, if you will. So last year I had opened my home care business, right, because I'm a nurse by background, from an entrepreneurial perspective, and giving back to our elderly community, our seniors, and providing them access to care. And then I
Okay, so
also,
wait a minute. So
uh-oh,
you went from real estate to home care now,
yes,
right?
yes,
Wow. All I can say is wow.
right.
All I can say is wow.
Well, you know what, and I talked about this before, right? So I'm operating in my 7 streams of income, right? So we heard about these before, and we know there's books out there about how most millionaires operate in these 7 streams of income. And what I start to find about myself is when I would pigeonhole myself into, you're a nurse, so you need to do this, right? And you're in healthcare, and most of your career, so you need to stay here. And so I grapple with that for years around, okay, how can I do real estate? I'm a nurse. Or how can I go into technology when I have healthcare background? And God spoke to me and said, listen, you need to operate in all these gifts that I've given you. I've given you the capacity to do that, and so you need to operate in that. And when I started to do that, and again, it's haphazard. I don't have a blueprint here. So sometimes it's like, okay, God, you tell me where I need to go. But when I started to look at these 7 streams of income, right? So one, I'm going to go through real quickly. Earned income is like your day job, right?
Mm-hmm.
2,
Okay.
profit income, right? 3, interest income. 4, dividend income. And you can Google any of these for the sake and purposes of, what we're doing. But you can Google these and find larger definitions. 5 is rental income, right? So that's where the real estate comes in. 6
Okay.
is capital gains. And 7 is royalty income, and that's where my book and my conferences come from. And so when I started to really sit down and build my empire of, let me map out these 7 streams of income and see where my purpose fits and where my purpose lies, and also my work activities, where do they lie? So when you read my bio and you look at what I'm doing from year to year, whether it be from real estate to healthcare, it's all behind the purpose that God has given me is I'm an advocate. God said, listen, you may be a nurse. That's a function, but that's not who you are. Your purpose is to be an advocate, whether it's an advocate for people in homes, whether it's an advocate for people in hospitals, whether it's an advocate for people who don't have access to health care and quality homes. That's what I want you to be. That's your purpose. You can operate in these 7 areas to make sure you get a rate of return. And so that's what I've been doing over the last few years. So that's why now we're on home care, because,
Mm-hmm.
again, healthcare is my background. That is my love. And as I work with, actually, my grandparents are aging. My parents are aging. I mean, to the point where I've had to move them out of their homes. I had to move them from another state. I had to sell their homes because their home is too big. Now they need, they can't get up the steps. They need care. And I said, wait a minute. I'm the only child. I'm going to have to take care of my parents, my grandparents, and my husband's parents and his grandparents. So we said most of our real estate is really geared towards providing long-term housing and health care for our parents. So at the end of the day, it comes together because we will have created our own care providing in the home for our parents, and we will be able to benefit from that financially.
Wow, that's fabulous. I'm going to tell you, I don't even know what to say, Dr. Good, because you
Mm-hmm.
surprise me every single time. And while I was listening to you talking about the 7 streams of income, there's a couple things that come to mind. First of all, I just think that people really need to go back and really listen to your first podcast about how you have to discipline and really invest in yourself to become successful in the things that you're doing, because you actually showed a very good example of that in
Mm-hmm.
your interview, just listening to what you're saying as far as like what you did. And then the second thing is that we're always talking about like the 7 streams of income, people kind of reel it off. But one of the things that I would really love to do, and I'll probably have you do this in one of my groups, is to just really break it down and really show people what they need to do. I know people can Google it and it's like tons of information, but
Yes.
don't you think it would be nice if we would just, sit down and do a how to on each one
Yes.
of those areas, because it is so much information, and I know it doesn't fit like everybody and everybody won't be able to do it, but just learning how to do it, because I hear it all the time and I'm in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, which one do I really fit in? To your point that
Right.
you found one to fit in. And I really like the fact that you are like, you picked that one that fit mostly with you and you just went for it. You
Right.
just went
Right.
for it and you built upon it. And that's just fabulous. And yeah, I would love to, get with you, on a Facebook Live or some other type of workshop and really just break those down.
Yeah, you know what, and I think that'll be great. I mean, people need it and a way that is digestible. So this is what I tell people. We're doing vision boards. We like that, right? We like that. It's fun. I've seen vision board parties. It would be nice, instead of doing this vision board of what's in your head, it would be nice to do the 7 streams of income vision board. So you have all the streams on your board. You just write it down, and you
Okay.
start to envision. When I say is number one is earned income, okay, that's my day job. What is that? And then just put that down so we can start to really break it down and understand that is my job. And so this is, well, would I like to stay with my job? Would I like to leave my job? And so let me give you a real personal example, because I know people struggle with this a lot, especially entrepreneurs. You read those books out there, and they're like, you got to jump, you got to make the leap, and you got to jump, and you leave your job, and you just jump. And I've seen people do that and be successful. But then you have to be careful, because if one of the 7 streams is earned income, then sometimes you may need to keep your job while you're working on those other things and have a timeline for which you can make that leap. However, what you don't want to do is get stuck in that earned income and think that you're going to become wealthy through that. So how do you focus on the other? So I would say, just very simply, we should maybe do a vision board session, or again, to your point, we should definitely do a session. But the audience out there, if they want to get started, put the 7 streams up on the vision board and just start plotting in. And again, it takes time. I'm going to tell you, when I first did this, and I'm actually in my office now, and I'm watching this. When I first did it, I had loose leaf paper with colored markers. So I had red, blue, green, and orange, and I put it on the wall, even my logos and all that. Now, when I made that become a reality, I created then my websites, my logos. I started defining things. I started creating metrics. Now that's up there. So just watch it unfold. But the other mistake I think we make when we talk about the 7 streams of income is we want to answer for it all at once. And it doesn't have to be. It may be 7 years, right? But then you start your vision board, and you make it your 7 streams, and I guarantee you it will start to manifest and come together.
Okay, yeah, we definitely have to do that. This is something that I think would be fabulous for anyone to know about the 7 streams of income. So we definitely going to make it happen. So you wanted to talk about some other areas too concerning like your actual background in nursing. And I want to give you an opportunity to really deep dive into those titles, because looking at your accolades, it's like, how in the world were you able to get so many high power positions? And I know part of it is just, again, just investing yourself, doing the research and doing the work, but just deep dive into really, if someone wants to really excel the way you have excelled, or even get close to in the nursing industry that you've done, talk a little bit about the level of effort, things they need to have, and what are they going to need in the future to prepare for like a career change or things like that.
Right. Great question. And so I started out very young as a nurse. Actually, I graduated at 21. I was a nurse by the time I was late 21, going into 22, with a bachelor's degree. And I worked really hard on becoming the best nurse that I could be. I went right back to school. When I graduated from nursing school, the year later, I went back and I got my master's in nursing, and I just didn't stop from there. And so one of the other things I did would kind of set me up in terms of my life as well. When I was 22, instead of renting an apartment and buying a new car, I bought a house. And so that market, this was back when the market was good. And you know what? People talk about the housing market now versus then. To be honest, I still have several properties, and it's still, and again, one of the 7 streams of income is rental income. It's still a wonderful field, right? So I think one of the things that set me up financially was that. And I say that because that allowed me then to pursue my dreams, right? Because I wasn't really working to, have to put food on the table, if you will. I was able to work and save. And so I was able to set myself up where I could then go to school, right? I didn't have to work full time. I worked weekends so I could go to school during the week. So
Okay.
again, and then what I talked about before, especially for some of my younger millennials, just be careful with your planning. I always have this mantra: what you do in your 20s will set you up for your 30s. What you do in your 30s will set you up for your 40s. And what I'm doing now in my 40s is going to set me up for my 50s, and also going to set my next generation for my children up. So
Nice.
I know sometimes we think we have this decade to do what we need to do and get it right, but what I've learned is when I bought that house at 22, how frustrated I was and I didn't know what I was doing, but that set me up and it really helped me have, again, the liberty to pursue my educational career and to get the jobs that I needed and wanted. And sometimes when I say wanted, sometimes I had to walk away, right? You go in a job and think, okay, this is great, but because I had that cushion, that savings, that discipline, I didn't have to stay in jobs that was harmful to me mentally or physically, right? So I think sometimes we have to think about how are we setting ourselves up. Then the other thing I want to talk about is how did I make the jump from being a nurse to a nurse leader and now being a nurse in technology? I've always followed the money. So I was having a conversation with a colleague the other day around following the money. And again, you want to look at where you live at, what geographical location. Is it a blue-collar state? Are they focused on healthcare? Are they focused on technology? You also want to look at, where are the trends going? When we talk about women and equality, it's a lot of things out there around being a woman-owned business, right, or being a woman in a leadership position. A lot of companies now are talking a lot about diversity. And so what I did is I looked at the healthcare industry and I said, okay, hospitals are consolidating. Of course, they're going to always need nurses, but not at the rate and the complexity that we once had. And hospitals today are even looking at avatar nurses, where nurses are working from home and they're showing up on computers. So as we start to look at that, I said to myself, okay, well, technology is starting to be the wave of the future. Even the federal government was giving hospitals money in reimbursement, a form of reimbursement, because they were being more technologically advanced. So what I did is I went back while I was working in the hospital and I got a master's in healthcare technology. And so after I got that, I started leading technology projects. And then I became the Chief Clinical Information Officer for Mercy Health System. So as a nurse, I still had that nursing background, but I was the clinical voice or liaison between IT, information technology, and nursing. And then now, again, in my day job or my earned income job, I'm the chief nurse officer of a company called Spoke, which is a technology company that is we make pagers, we make the technology in iPhones, we make the technology in the computers and in the hospitals, right? You go to a hospital today or a doctor's office, you see them typing on the computer. They're putting your information in there. My company makes that software to allow hospitals and clinicians to document into the computer, and we kind of create a chart for them. And now we're creating a technology on the cell phone where they don't have to use those computers. Everything can occur on the phone. And as a nurse leader, right, so I have my nursing background. What I do is I work with developers to tell them what nurses want, what doctors want, what hospitals want. And then I go back to the hospitals and say, listen, guess what? Technology is the wave of the future. How are we going to implement and change and educate you on using technology in the workplace? So that's kind of my little, blurb, if you will, or, my story around how do you move from one area to the next? One, you get involved in projects, right? You get your certification. You may take up another degree. But I always urge young folks, right? So, and I'm going to give you an example. My son is 16. He's on his way to college, and he's still trying to figure out what he needs to do. Now, and I said to him, again, technology and drones are the wave of the future, right? We're talking about Amazon is going to be dropping off products via the drone. And so now we're looking at a drone program where he can be a pilot. So I'm telling, my advice to some of our young people, whether it's healthcare, whether it's technology, you want to look at the industry, the wave of the future, where's your geographical area where you live at, where they invest in money. And if you say, listen, I want to move. I went to school at Oregon, I want to stay here. Make sure, again, you pick a degree or you pick a program where you can not only be impactful, but you also want to have an income and be successful.
Yeah, yeah, that is fabulous. Well, I get a lot of people who come to me for career advice, and they definitely want to be in the healthcare space. And you kind of hit on that you have to be disciplined in making sure that you research the demand. I talk about this all the time in my workshops about going to the U.S. Bureau and Label Statistics and finding out where's your occupation? Is it in demand? How much is your expected salary in the next 5 years? Or even, how many people are in this job? Is it declining or is it declining? What is it doing, for the next few years? And a lot of us don't even do that. And I'm glad that you said that because it goes to your dedication and how you're going to see yourself in the nursing field. And because you're working with so many different people, your discipline have to be on point, right? I mean,
Mhm.
you really have to be able to work with so many different people. And so, can you just kind of give some general advice of what type of mindset that someone in the nursing field have to maintain to move forward, because you're dealing with so many different people on so many different levels, and your coworker or your manager is different, and if they're looking for a leadership role, what is that like in the nursing field?
So I think, and it's funny when you talk about discipline because discipline and hard work, goes hand in hand. But I also want to mention a feature or a skill or two. One, I think if you want to be in the healthcare field, you have to have a level of service, right? So you have to be a servant. You have to be able to serve people in any capacity, right? You can't be saying, well, I don't do this and I don't do that, but I'll do this and I'll do that. And I see that a lot. You have to want to go above and beyond. In a healthcare field, whether you're touching patients or not, you're taking care of people at the most vulnerable state of their lives. You have to have a level of service to be able to identify with that and be good. So it's just not a trained, right, profession. Sometimes, and you can see. I mean, again, we've been in the hospital. We've had loved ones in the hospital. We can tell the difference between those who are servants, right, or provide service, and those who are just trained, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, in
Yep.
order to be successful and move forward, you have to have. I'm not even going to say passion, but understand that you are in a service industry and you're there to serve people by any way necessary. The other
Mm.
skill that comes into my mind is, especially today, there is this strong sense of entitlement. And, literature would say it's generational, right? I'm not sure, because I see it at all different levels. But to be in the healthcare field, to be successful, to be empathetic and compassionate, you have to be able to evaluate your level of having this entitlement and dropping it. Because I'm not going to say all of us had it, right? At one form or the other. Especially when we're young, you have it a lot more. But people are not going to cater to you when you're in the healthcare field. Again, when your job is to serve. Okay, so you have to keep the discipline and the hard work first and foremost. Two, I think it's service, drop the level of entitlement, right?
Mhm.
And three, also know anything that I've done in my career, because again, I think we'll be remiss if we don't bring this up. Things do not happen overnight. You
No,
know, I mean,
absolutely not. No.
people, it's so funny. People look at me today and they say, oh my God, I wish I can do this and I wish but people miss when you read your bio and they see 18 years. That's why that's the front line. That is the first line. I have been in this industry for 18 years. I may not look like it, I may not be as tired as some, right? However, God has given me the capacity to do this. So think about 18 years. So how
Right.
do you get to this level? I
Mhm.
was a CNO when I was 32. My first job as a CNO, I was 32 years old, probably the youngest in the country. However, I had been a nurse for 10 years before that, not 10 months, not 2 years, not I think I'm
Mhm.
good enough to be a manager. I had
Mhm.
did the time. So I'm going to say to you, when we talk about discipline and hard work, the number one piece of advice that I can give to anyone who want to change career, go into an industry, young folks, it takes time. So allow
Yes.
yourself the time and deny the urge to move when you want to move because things aren't going your way.
Yeah, that is true. And I like the fact that you talked about the entitlement because when people see titles, they don't think about the hard work. Just like you said, it's instant. They think that, oh, you got this job and all of a sudden you became a manager, but they don't understand how we have to go through the trenches. We have to go through that day to day and what we have to deal with to get to that point. And then if you kind of compound that over 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, you know, they don't see how much effort that you put into your career, which is how you got the title. So I like the fact that you said that you have to let go of the title or feeling like you entitled to have it because you think you're worth it. You have to earn it. And so talk about some of the events that you have going on now because I'm gonna tell you I'm hyped up. I want to know what else you got going on. You have your book
Yeah.
going on. We didn't talk about nursing. We didn't talk about so many things. And again, I want to remind people who are listening to please go back and check her 2017 podcast interview for the other part of this thing because you really need to hear what she was talking about last year in terms of investing in yourself and also again about following the money. So talk about some of the really good things that are coming up this year, events, networking events, any kind of books you have coming out and all that good stuff.
Yeah. So, and I plan to release my second book the end of the year. And so it's a trilogy, actually. And so my book is called Transformational Innovation, 10 Practical Steps to Help You Change Your Life. And so the next piece will be Transformational Innovation, and I will talk about these 10 steps that'll help you in your educational career to help you achieve educational success, right? Because a lot of people say, well, I want to get my doctorate, I want to get my master's. How do I start? What do I do? And you need to really have a plan. You need to have a blueprint. So I'm going to talk about that, especially when we're talking about doctorates. When I started, I had one of my professors say, anybody who's married needs to make a divorce-proof plan before we move forward. And I thought to myself, what are you talking about? Like, this is school. I'm not getting divorced. We've been together forever. What are you talking about? And so guess what? It was hard. And thank God I had that plan because it did come to a point where, it was overwhelming trying
Wow.
to get through school and take care of my kids and take care of my family. When you start to question, okay, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? If something needs to go, is it him? Is it school? Is it this? So, to be realistic and be prepared for that, I think is key. And then my next book will be about the career success. So it'll be a map around how I, started from a bedside nurse to where I am now and where I plan to go further. And again, utilizing the same 10 steps to do that. And I also, in terms of the conference, so we're taking the conference tour, the Are You Stuck tour to Atlanta. So I will be in Atlanta in May 2nd, in the Atlanta, Georgia area, and I'm going to kick off the second leg, if you will, of the conference, Are You Stuck? So we'll be doing the same type of content with a new audience in Atlanta. And so we plan to, by the end of the year, come back to the D.C., Maryland area.
Okay, I'm gonna be there. You coming to DC? I'm going to be
Yes,
there. I'm telling you, I'm
yes.
going to be there because I missed the one in Philadelphia, but I am not going to miss the one when you come over here in the DC, Maryland area. I would love to come and be there and meet you in person and also get to learn more about your 10 steps. So, guys, as you're listening to this podcast, I'm telling you, Dr. Guyton has some really good information. So make sure that you reach out to her, talk to her. If you're looking to get into the nursing industry, the real estate industry, or any kind of industry that you think that she could be helpful, please reach out to her, attend her events, give her a call, send her email, however. Also, check out all of the other podcasts because we have just as amazing people who is going to be on here giving up their information on this platform. And with that, Dr. Guyton, give everybody your contact information again so that they'll be able to find you.
Yeah, so you can find me. I'm on Instagram at Dr. Guyton. And I'm also on Facebook at Nate, Nate-Guyton. You can reach me online. I have a couple of websites, but my transformational innovation website is 10 principles, 10-principles.com. And also, I'm going to give you my email address. You know, sometimes people still like that email. So it's
right.
PAYGUYTON@gmail.com. So you
That's
can Google
right.
me, and you'll
Mhm.
definitely get any of that information. I look forward to connecting with everyone. But I just want to end again on, let's really think about this year for 2018, your 7 income streams. And I'll be happy to come back and talk a little bit more about that. But I just want to, if anything that you can take away,
Mhm.
do your vision board on those 7 streams of income, and then let's come back when Ann has us back, and let's do the
That's
work so
right.
we
Let's
can
do the work.
start to become financially free.
Right. And please don't do like I've been doing, is murder her name, Dr. Guyton. I don't
That's
know why I was
fine.
saying that, but let's not murder her name when you contact her. But thank you so much, Dr. Guyton, for being on this podcast. And we are going to do this thing. We're definitely going to do the work. So we're going to talk about how we're going to bring this to fruition, either in person or virtual, because it needs to be done. And a lot of our young people need to learn some of this good stuff, and older folks. And
Yes.
we definitely need to learn it. So thank you so very much.
Thank you. Have a